Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the VectoScalar Tech Talk show. Have an amazing guest, Aniket Amdekar, with us, who will be talking about securing your cyber future. Welcome, Aniket, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Vikas.
For the benefit of audience, let me give you a brief introduction about our speaker today. Aniket Amdekar has 17 plus years of experience in cybersecurity. He is General Manager Cyber Defense Education at Great Learning. He has previously worked with leading organizations including Ocwen, MakeMyTrip, Walmartlabs, Microsoft, Akamai, Axatech, Syntec, and many more. As cybersecurity leader, strategist, trusted advisor, keynote speaker, mentor, and trainer, he is committed to keep the cyber future of organization safe. He has been featured on All India Radio and been an international speaker at conferences at Miami. So this is what we already know about Aniket right now. So Aniket, what is that aspect of life, or how did you get into security in the initial days? Tell us more about that.
Sure. Thanks a lot for the question. I'm from Pune. I have done my engineering in information technology. And while I was in my engineering program at that time, I would say in the second year of engineering, a lot of IT was Greek and Latin to me. In the third year, that is when we've got the subject of networking, and for the first time I really got deep into that subject. In the final year we had cybersecurity as a subject, and I really liked it. I used to stay back in the library and read books about it, which I had never done
Mhm.
before. So I would say the liking happened from the college side, and from the first job, which was in Sonic Wall. I started to work in this field of security, and every time I felt that, hey, I think I know security really well. There is one aspect and a part of technology that humbles you and says that, hey, there is still a lot of things to learn. So that's how the beginning was. Eventually, I would say the beginning of my career, about 5 to 6 years, have been in the technical support domain, where I performed a lot of troubleshooting, helped many customers to fix their problems, and it also helped me to focus on communication, at the same time logical thinking. And this is where I was working in, like, in one scenario, we had a network of around 5,000 computers, and they had a malware. A virus was running around freely in that network, and they had no idea what to do. So then I got into one of the machines, I found the file and got a signature created, and now the machines were getting secure again. So things like these inspire me to work in cybersecurity.
Okay, and that's a very critical observation because generally in most colleges, people attend those cyber or hacking workshop, and then they get inspired that I want to become a hacker in the manner that I'll crack the network. But you played the actually the white hat hacker role, which is actually to secure your network instead of hacking into your network.
Yes, yes, true, true.
Okay. Now, Aniket, everywhere we are listening about that startups are coming up. India is growing at a exponential stage and investments happening. But are
Mhm.
we actually taking care of the security of those applications enough, or what entrepreneurs, founders, or CTOs can do to make their application secure?
Sure. Well, yes, cybersecurity has been a topic of discussion in so many forums, and in many cases, people still feel that cybersecurity is like bolt on. So I'm going to get my application done, and then I will do something about cybersecurity. And I think this is where the approach needs to change now, where we call it shift left or left shift, where the earlier you bring cybersecurity into the application development process, the more secure it becomes. In fact, many companies use their cybersecurity testing as one of their core features. They inform their prospect customers that these are all the tests that this software has been through, and that gives a lot of confidence to a lot of upcoming maybe prospect customers. Now, talking about the application security area, how startups or how application developers can keep their application secure, I would say the journey begins with knowledge. The journey begins with awareness, being aware as to what all things can happen. And this is where I have a small formula. Would you want me to share that formula with everyone?
For sure, for sure.
So this formula is called RRR. Okay,
Okay,
and
is
that
it
nothing to
inspired
do
by
with
the
the
movie,
movie.
or movie took the inspiration from your formula?
No, no, they just coexist.
Okay,
But this RRR, what we do about here is, first is what makes your company rich. So if you are an app developer, what is that feature? What is that thing about your application that makes your company rich? So if there is any risk around that, you have to make a note about that risk. Second, what can ruin your company? For example, for any organization that deals with data, if they are involved in a data leakage kind of a situation, that can ruin the entire hard work of that organization. And the third is what regulates your industry. So a lot of times you are doing a lot of things internally and you have done your part really well, but the regulators are looking for something specific. So if you look for these three things, any application developer would be able to identify areas of risk, and then you can start working at fixing these areas within the application. Now for this, there is a really interesting and a kind of filmy way as well, and this is called threat modeling. So in a
okay,
threat model, an application developer will sit with a security expert, and then they both will come up with ideas on what are the different avenues where the cyber security or the cyber attacks can happen. So let's say if somebody is registering onto my app, that is one where they place where they can hit me. Or if I have a server that I have hosted in the cloud which is exposed on the internet, that's another place where they can hit me. So now you identify avenues of attacks and you start to secure them. Now I do a
okay,
lot of consulting work as well, and in one of
okay,
my consulting assignments, one of the organizations from the medical industry had contacted me. Now
okay,
their product had been through a regulator's scan and an audit, and they had a few findings. One of the major findings was that they did not have a threat model, and without that the device was not fit to be deployed in any hospital. So when they contacted me, I sat with their team and we built a threat model for their product. In fact, we also helped them to perform some penetration testing and identify some gaps. So all of these are proactive methods that can be used by the application developers to secure their applications.
okay. That's a very insightful information. The rich, that what can make the money, the ruin, what can spoil your thing, and the regulators part. I would like to
Correct.
extend and curious more about the rich part. So from
Hmm.
a MVP perspective, that what is that feature in my product that can make me rich? I totally understand. But is there
Yeah.
any security angle to that when you mention that RRR?
Yes. Yeah. Indeed. Indeed. So whenever you look at any feature that makes your organization rich, and how is that feature, what are the different risks associated with that feature? For example,
Okay.
let's say the speed of my website is going to be awesome, and that's my biggest differentiator. So if I am under a huge volumetric attack, the speed of my website will go down, which
Okay.
means
Now
a
I
lot of
understand.
people will go to the competitors. So now I say that if that makes me rich, I have to protect that from any kind of risks that's coming up.
Okay, now I got that. Thank you. Thanks for the further details. Now,
Yep.
talking about the regulator, and we all know that we have an upcoming Digital Personal Data Protection Act, which is
Yes.
being approved by the Parliament. So,
Yeah.
for the benefit of our users, in the early August 2023, the Indian Parliament passed the Personal Data Protection Act, and the new law is the first cross-sectoral law on personal data protection in India and has been enacted after more than half a decade of deliberations. So it's a critical act, and I think sooner or later, most of the organization and even the individual will get to know about the importance of this act. So, Aniket, let us know more about the act and what are the important key insights from this act.
Sure. Sure. Let me first begin with the ground reality of where we are now. I was in a cybersecurity conference very recently where we had cybersecurity experts and thought leaders from all over the world. We were all present in a round table, and we had a really good discussion there. One of the common themes that was discussed is what is the priority of hackers. So someone said
Okay.
these hackers must be after the data for the individuals in India, and the experts from other countries said no, they are not, because a lot of data about individuals is available just like that. So the attackers are not after a lot of data, they are after the laptops of developers. If
Oh,
they know that there is a developer, let's say, let's take Adobe for example. If there is a laptop of an Adobe PDF reader developer who got compromised, so now they might try to compromise the Adobe reader, which has a much bigger scale of impact. That's definitely a
understand.
trend which is coming up. Now, talking about the Digital Data Protection Act, I think it was much needed because organizations have been taking up data from their customers, and then because there was no regulatory aspect to it, some of them were being proactive, storing it in a secure manner. Many of them were storing it, but they did not know that losing this data can cause an impact to a general man or to their customer base, and which is why the data leakages keep happening. And we have had many data leakages options or other news in the past. So
Okay.
this Data Protection Act, I would say it is inspired somewhere from the GDPR, which is a very
Mm-hmm.
stringent law in the UK, which is the General Data Protection Regulations. And the
Okay.
GDPR talks about protecting data, and then they have defined certain, I would say, parties involved. For
Yeah.
example, you may have a data fiduciary, you may have a data owner, data controller, or a data processor. So let's say if you are logging on to a food delivery app, and you create a account over there, you provide your details. Now the food delivery app's server has your data, and they are going to process that data. So they become the
Okay.
data processor. But because they have my data, I become the owner of that data. So there are a lot of parties involved when we are implementing this kind of regulations. But then
Okay.
what do we what does one individual, how do they benefit from this DPDP Act?
Yep.
We get certain rights, we are called as data principals. Any person whose data is being handled is called as a data principal, and the data principal has acts or other rights, such as there is something called right to be informed, where data principals have the right to access their personal data held by the data fiduciaries. Let's say that
Okay.
food delivery company, including the source of the data, why are they using it, what is the purpose of this data, what kind of recipients are going to use that data from this person. So, which means if I take data from someone because I was running a training, let's say training program. For that,
Yep.
I asked everyone to fill a Google form, and they filled all that data, give it to me. Now I hold that sensitive data about every one of my training participants. In that
True.
case, I have to inform them what am I going to use this data for? Who else is going to have this access? Who will not have this access? Now, why is this needed? So, in case I lose that access, somebody steals that data from me, I can be
Mm-hmm.
held accountable on that specific act, on that specific right, that I did not do this part very well. So, it has to be finely grained. So, at a granular level, you should be able to identify exactly what went wrong. At the same
Okay.
time, on a proactive side, if an organization decides to comply with DPDP, what is it that they should be doing? They should know that. And that's where these rights come into picture as well. So the first one was right to be informed. Then there is one more, which is called the right to be forgotten, where I can contact an organization and I say, hey, I want you to delete every piece of data that you have about me. And now they would have certain amount of time within which they have to comply with this request. This is where, to enforce all of this, there is a body being formed by the government. who is going to undertake all of these proceedings. And if there is an issue, as an individual citizen, I can contact that body and launch a complaint.
Okay, that's very critical insights, and I'm sure every company which is into, and definitely IT is part of each and every company. So I think
Yeah,
there is not a single body or an organization who should not be knowing all these acts. But will it be adding more complexities to the companies now, because another act to take care of, and definitely having taking that information from each and every user. For example, you are part of a conference, you have just taken the visiting card, and now people send you. So I think most companies have these marketing practices right now.
yeah, yeah,
How to make sure that we have taken that commitment from them by putting the visiting card? Can we say that we have taken the approval from them to contact that person, send out that email, use their data? So how the
yeah.
at the ground, how things will work out?
Sure, sure. So I would say that there is always a resistance to any new change.
Yeah.
That has been like an age-old pattern that we have observed. Similarly, when DPDP comes, at that time as well, there is going to be huge need for awareness about people knowing what do I need to do, what do I need to check. I would say it is very similar to when COVID-19 had started. We knew nothing about COVID-19. We did not know how to protect ourselves, what to check. And gradually, as we had this information presented to us in a very friendly manner, we all understood it, and now it became a part of our lives. So DPDP implementation would go through a something similar process as well. And I
Yeah.
think so. So this is where, when I spoke about the consulting earlier, I'm already starting to get some inquiries about this, where companies want to know how to implement DPDP. So when I speak with them, we speak about a plan, where they are now and where they will be 16 weeks from now, and how do we get there. So there's a lot of
Okay.
planning. So one more point I want to add. Sorry, um,
Yeah.
the point is about budgeting. Okay,
Hmm.
where if you have so many things that need to be implemented that have never been done before, in that case, you might need to purchase new tools. You will need people who know how to handle those tools, which means people, process, and technology. In all the three places, you might need to do some more investments. So, organizations
Totally
who are
understand that.
preparing their budget for 2024 need to factor this in, so that they don't need to make readjustments in the future.
That totally makes sense, because definitely it will require a lot of changes in the processes that we are currently adopting to. And for example, as you gave the example of that right to forget, that if somebody asks to delete the data, what is the process of deleting the data so far? Because I
Yeah,
currently organization may not have that process of, there are so many copies of Google Sheets where customers data and that information is lying, for
correct,
especially for smaller companies. That then in that
correct.
case, when you say that, okay, I have deleted the data, from how many places have you actually deleted that data? So that is going to be an area of
Absolutely.
concern and area to look into.
In fact, in
Yeah.
IT world, the holy grail of IT world is the inventory of all the assets. Every
Yeah.
company struggles to maintain an absolutely accurate inventory. Similarly, in case of data security, you need to have something called as the data inventory. So you will make a list of what kind of data do I have and where is that data residing, and then based
Yeah.
on that you perform qualification, classification. And if somebody says, hey, delete my data, now you know that, hey, this is PII is located, let's say, in Google Drive in this folder. Okay, we go there and we do the cleanup over there. So more governance comes into picture.
Okay. Before moving to the next question, Aniket, we have a question coming from Saddam Hussein. So Saddam is asking, what emerging cybersecurity threats should we be aware of in the coming years?
Excellent question, Saddam, thank you. I would say, at an individual level, it's going to be the frauds and phishing, where there are numerous different variations of frauds that are available these days. People get frauded when they're trying to call, let's say, an airline, and they'll end up calling the wrong number, and the person sitting on the other end will send you a fake application which hacks your phone, and then they steal your money. That's one kind of a
Mm.
threat. In fact, I have seen these cases really rising in the last 4 to 5 weeks. Another one is where people invest money in cryptocurrency, where you will be shown an app, and you can see that in the app the money is growing. It's like 2x, 2.5x. When you decide to withdraw that money, that is when they say, okay, it's not possible. And in some cases, we have also seen that people were receiving complaints for trying to withdraw that money. So a lot of frauds going on. And
Okay.
another kind of vector that we see is phishing, where you receive an email, and in the email maybe the subject will be something that everyone is looking out for. Let's say if the latest topic, let's say Jawan movie is super hit, 90% off on Jawan movie tickets. Somebody who wants to watch the movie will open the email, click on the link, and it'll take them to a fake website where maybe their username password will be stolen. So I think these are the kind of threats which are really emerging at an individual level.
Okay. Thanks, Aniket, for answering that. And probably to add to that, there are another level of threats which are definitely coming from AI level of tools. That when you are talking to AI, do you know if the person is actually you are the you are talking to the real
Yeah.
person? So, what do you think? How can we? What are the emerging technologies, and how people are going to identify that if I'm actually talking to real Aniket and it's not some impersonator who is talking, showing me his face?
Yep. Yep. I would say when it comes to information, try to validate the information from at least two different sources.
Okay.
Okay, where you have one source which is the person talking with you, and let's say somebody is calling you from a specific company. Now you take their employee number or something and say, okay, I'll call you back. You go to the Google, find the company's phone number, you call that phone number and try to connect to that person. That way you
Okay.
are validating this. Or like I said, misinformation. So another way is whenever you are whenever you are receiving something, validating in a different approach. For example, you may have seen this another type of thing happening where Instagram accounts are getting cloned, and they will contact the friend list asking for money.
Yep.
So
So commonly happening. I think every week I'm getting that kind of message from a friend that my account is hacked or somebody is impersonating with my name. Right.
yes, yes. Same thing happens over there as well. You get a request from your friend asking for money, you give them a call and talk to them, and that's where you can actually have confirmation, and only then you will be really assured.
Yeah, yeah, and I can share one immediate experience. Like it happened just 10 days ago. One of my school friend, he was in need of some money, and he sent me a message. I made a call to him. Just imagine,
Hmm.
just to make sure that I'm talking to the
Yeah,
real friend. But even after making the call, I was still in doubt that what if somebody is impersonating with his voice. So I think this is the side effect of having too much knowledge, where you are not
yeah,
sure at that, even after doing certain thing additional. So I think we need to get used to of all this.
true. But paranoia is like the bread and butter for cybersecurity. So it is absolutely normal.
Yeah, probably it is
Yeah.
coming from my background that initially year I was also in cybersecurity. I did certified ethical hacker. So I can just
Oh
imagine
yes.
that even at that time those things are possible. So definitely there are even higher benchmarks. I see another question coming from Shubham. So Shubham
Hmm.
is specifically asking that how can we protect our mobile and IoT devices?
Okay. Thank you for the question, Shubham. I would say one of the best ways to protect is doing the right things and not doing the wrong things. What are the right things to do whenever we are installing any app? Ensuring that you are getting the app from the right store or the right company, because there are a lot of fake applications these days, and applications ask for so much of permissions. They want access to your storage, contact, camera, your microphone. So having a general idea of, if it's a finance application, it doesn't need access to your microphone, it doesn't need access to maybe a lot of other resources. So ensuring you're downloading and installing apps only for the right places. What are the things that we should not be doing? Clicking on links, visiting unsafe websites. In some cases, when you visit a site, they will show you a security warning because certificate is expired. Or maybe you are visiting a dangerous website. So in that case, just go back. Now, one of the most crucial things to do these days is to enable two-factor authentication. And that's where you have Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator. Enable that for every important account that you have, like Google account. Google account connects to so many things: your YouTube, your mailbox, photos, everything. Similarly, your Facebook, Instagram, whichever social media is most active for you, make sure that two-factor authentication is there, because password leaks are happening all the time. So if your username and password is the only way to identify you, somebody else may be able to get access to that information through not your fault, but you used the same password in another site, and that site leaked the password. And they will try the same password in a lot of other places, seeing some of them might work. So these are some things with which you can actually secure your mobile and IoT.
Okay. And definitely, and Aniket, what can be the advice, similar advice for developer side, people who are into the software development, what they can do so that the application that they are building on mobile, they are secure? Any one or two best practices?
Sure, sure. I would say developers use a lot of libraries, ensuring that the libraries are safe. In many cases, when you're working for a company, a development organizations should actually have whitelisted list of libraries, and only they should be used, because those
Okay.
libraries have gone through a lot of security testing, and there are no flaws in there. And the second is, they should be aware of the latest hacks that are happening, because what may be really secure 2 weeks before may be broken now. So unless you know about it, you can't protect about it. So keep yourself updated with the cybersecurity news. There is one
Okay.
website that I frequently visit. It is called CISOseries.com.
Okay.
Okay, CISOseries.com, or there is another one, darkreading.com. These are some websites where you can get to read these news really well.
Okay. Thanks for that information. Now, probably another follow-up question that is coming to my mind. Like 10 years ago, when I was into working specifically into the security domain, I remember we used to mention CVE, common vulnerability exposure, and those numbers are
Yeah,
there for the
yeah,
vulnerabilities. But still, when I see most of the engineers working, they might not knowing about the known vulnerabilities or the CVEs. So
right.
I think there need to be more education on that part. Education in the sense of understanding that there are something like secure coding practices and ways to secure. What are your take on it?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. There are secure coding practices that the developers can use. For example, one of the secure coding practices is input validation, where
Yep.
you should know what kind of input you are getting from the user, and do you really need all of that input.
Okay.
Maybe if you are receiving, like, a let's say, email address, an email address field may easily have a validation. There has to be at the rate .com, all of these, and plus maximum amount of length of that field. You can define all these. So if somebody who's trying to insert bad code in that field, that will be automatically rejected. So
Okay.
input
Yeah.
validation being done at different levels is one of the best ways of protecting yourself. And
Okay.
statistics also show that if you do secure coding really well, you are able to defend against 87% of attacks at default level itself. So more than
Hmm.
87% of threats, you won't even see them, because your application will ignore them by default.
That makes total sense, that because anyhow how to fix a security threat is by fixing a vulnerability into the code, which means it was doable in the code itself from the beginning. So
Correct.
how we can do earlier, in the beginning of the talk you mentioned about that moving left, that how sooner we can start these conversation can make our
Yes.
application really secure. That's a
Very true.
valid point. I have another question coming from Saddam Hussein. Are
Mhm.
there specific technologies or tool you recommend for ensuring online safety?
Any specific technologies or tools for ensuring online safety? Okay, one of the tools that comes to my mind is password management, where these days, one of the reasons that we reuse passwords and that becomes a risk, is that it is not practical to have a separate password for every different website, because we are
Okay.
not able to remember them, and then we will write it down somewhere, and that becomes a risk. So then
Yes.
using a password manager can be a really good way to securely store your passwords and other secrets as well, and that
Okay.
can be a really good tool that you can use. Second thing is, um, avoiding the usage of sensitive applications like banking, especially when you are connected to public wi-fi's. This is where, let's say, if you're connected to an airport or a cafe or a hotel, avoid using the banking applications from here. Instead,
Okay.
using your own mobile hotspot is a much safer choice. So that's another technology or a tool in a very simple manner that you can use.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks for answering that. I have another question coming from Khyati Chajed, that how
Mhm.
can we know if someone is fake if they are pretending to be someone we know by using AI?
Yeah. So I think one is the way they talk, their language. Okay, for example, like I was talking about that impersonation attempt that happened earlier.
Yeah.
This person is like a mentor to me, and whenever we chat in a different way. He sends me a message and says, bro, send me 25K urgently, and I know this person doesn't talk to me like that. So
Hmm.
that language gives away one thing: every person speaks in a different manner, and no matter how intelligent the AI gets, they will not be able to replicate that speaking pattern. Maybe they might. In that case, you might need some kind of a secret thing, where we went to that thing in 2016. Do you remember where it was? And that's really one way of doing validation, I would say. That is what comes to
Yes.
mind right now.
Yes, I hope that answers your question, Khyati. I have another question coming from Harshit Goyal. What are the unique cybersecurity challenges that India faces considering its large and diverse population, rapid digitization, and the increasing
Yeah,
use of smartphones?
yeah, absolutely. So, Harshit, I would say one of the most unique challenges that we face, that we have so many languages in India, and the attackers are capable of attacking in every language, which is why our knowledge about these attacks has to be really good, and that helps us to stay ahead of the curve and be more secure. Also, people have this tendency of trusting others, and that
Hmm.
that sometimes becomes one of the limiting factors. For example, there are so many scams that purely work on the trust basis. In fact, just yesterday, I saw there was a scam in the UPSC domain, where some lady claimed that she was a goddess and she will help you to clear UPSC. And people trusted her and paid a lot of money. So that trust, where you put the trust, is really a decision making factor. And people should become more paranoid. Where first question that you should come to our minds is, what kind of risk do I have from this? And that can
Hmm.
only happen if we know about these things. So that is about diverse population. Now, rapid digitization and increasing use of smartphones. uh, Definitely there is a large use of smartphones, smart devices, smart watches. And again, that goes back to the basics of security, where yes, we do have a smartphone, but do we have a fingerprint which is being used for unlocking the phone, or do you have a code like 0000, which is easy for you, but somebody sitting beside you can also read that code very quickly? So following a lot of these digital hygiene is actually important.
Okay, I think there are many, but definitely we need to find the priority ones. And Harshit, I am sure. But you, Harshit, you asked a very valid question because of the diversity of the India. Like when you go to villages, people by default have the trust factor, and now they have started using apps like WhatsApp and YouTube. So definitely they will trust the link and immediately click the link. So we need to make sure that how we can educate people about the risk and all the possibilities that exist. Thanks, Arshit, for asking your question. I have another question from coming from Akshika Chaudhary, who is asking that how can small businesses with limited resources prioritize cybersecurity without sacrificing efficiency? I think many small organization will have this question again and again.
Absolutely. I would say, how can you prioritize cybersecurity? Would be to ensure that there is something called as a secure baseline. My recommendation to any small business would be establish that secure baseline. Once you do that, you practice implementing that on every PC and every server. Now, what is this secure baseline? That would mean every laptop must have antivirus. Every laptop must have, let's say, disk encryption, which are features available inside the operating system, no extra charges. So, when you are starting your company and you have got multiple machines, try and use all the security features that you get with your current subscriptions. And with that, you define the minimum amount of security that everyone has to follow. Second is focus from the senior leadership team on ensuring that we are doing the right things, which means maybe doing a penetration testing, doing education related activities for all the employees, security awareness trainings for all the employees. For a small business company, it's actually easier because the number of people are lesser. Third would be testing the effectiveness of that training on the employees, maybe by sending some dummy phishing emails and see how many people are clicking on the links. Moreover, everyone should feel that cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility, not just one person.
Yeah, that's, I think, even more important, that it's a shared responsibility. We can't just say that I'm not responsible. If I'm part of that ecosystem, I hold some responsibility and I need to take care of that. I
Yeah,
see one question again coming from Saddam, that what steps should be taken to respond to cyber incidents effectively? And I think that's a very critical question, because the
yeah,
concern about security only starts when we have that incident that has been reported. So what steps should be
absolutely.
taken to take care of that situation?
Great question. I'll answer this question at two levels. First level is at individual. Second level would be at a small company level. At an individual level, I think you should definitely have somebody in your circle who is into cybersecurity, or he who knows cybersecurity well. In case something happens, you should know that okay, I can contact this person. Second thing is, whenever something happens, if it is related to money, finance, where you have lost money, somebody stole from your ATM or your bank account, you must know that timing is critical. For example, in case of a lost money from an ATM or a credit card fraud, you can reverse that transaction within 48 hours. Only if you give a written complaint to your bank, take the written complaint with bank confirmation to the police station, the cyber police, and launch a complaint with all the details. In that case, I have seen transactions being reversed as well. So, timing is most crucial. So, don't panic, contact the right people, and take the right actions. That would be the three-step formula to respond to a financial kind of an incident. If
Okay.
it's an incident related to your website, in that case, contact a cybersecurity company immediately, and take help from the professionals to solve that issue instead of trying an R&D method in-house, because there are a lot of things that you need to be aware of when you're dealing with a cyber incident.
Okay, thanks for answering that question. I have another question coming from Bhavna, who is asking that how can organization balance remote work flexibility with cybersecurity requirements?
Yeah, thank you, Bhavna. I would say organizations can implement this flexibility if they are if and when they are aware of the risks that are involved and they have taken care of the risks. For example, if I have a lot of sensitive data and I know that all my employees are working on this sensitive data, but I don't want them to leak this data or steal this data even if they're working from home. In that case, maybe a data loss prevention kind of a product is a must for me. Now, I also know that some of these people might try to print that data. So, all these corner cases, once you know about them, you can start working towards getting them blocked. Another huge thing that I have seen with one of my recent consulting customers. Um, in their case, what had happened is they had allowed employees to use personal laptops for work. Now, somebody was using a torrent software on their personal laptop, and then they connected that laptop to the office network. So, through the office network, this guy is now seeding some torrent movie, and then they got a case from the company saying that you are stealing movies. So then, as a next step, what I help them to implement is only office given laptops should be used. And how do you identify that? So we actually implemented digital certificates for them on every laptop to identify that asset. So that's another part of your security baseline. So that secure baseline becomes one of the first levels of defense for an organization. I
Okay.
hope that answers the question.
Yeah, yes, yes. I must say that is answered because nowadays remote work is part and parcel of the job. So we need to make sure
Yeah,
that we are following the right steps to get to that question. Now, Aniket, we have talked a lot about that. There are so many things. Security is important, but how are we going to build so much talent? Because as you mentioned that you should be knowing someone in your network, but then
yeah,
it means that there is a dire need of so many professional into the security domain. So how do you advise, and you are part of great learning and you are already working in that domain, that how you
yeah.
educate people and build more and more professionals? So what are your few tips that how we can develop that talent?
Absolutely. So this actually works at three different levels. One is awareness, where you can ensure that you are aware about the cyber threats. Maybe by reading the news, it could be newspaper, it could be many different ways. You can keep yourself updated. Second is a training. A training is something that you can do maybe within 2 to 3 days or within a week. And the next level is education. This is where you sign up for a like a 6 months program. Now, at Great
Okay.
Learning, we have a program called Postgraduate Program in Cybersecurity. And in here, we start with the fundamentals of security. Then we have an entire 1 month dedicated to only understanding cyber attacks. Then we look at controls and incident response and all of that. So,
Okay.
education is definitely something that one can consider if you want to make a career in cybersecurity. If you are somebody who is new in your career or you want to transition in this domain, even then that can be a really good option for you. One other
Okay.
thing that I have also seen is that there are a lot of decision makers, people who are at a director level, maybe at a CTO or a CISO level, who are approving a lot of projects day in and day out, but they need to know what they are approving. They need to know what's the meaning of a data loss. So a lot of those individuals also sign up for a program, and we help them
Okay.
to make this decision in an informed manner.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it's at that three level as you mentioned, and definitely education and awareness is important for each and every person, because we are part of the new age, the cyber future. It is already there. It's no more. When you are attending this program, that means you are part of the cyber future, and definitely it is very much required. Now, I will have a quick rapid fire question round, and you might give just one word that comes to your mind just to understand
sure,
what's in your right and wrong. There is nothing like right and wrong in this. So
sure.
um, what is the one word that comes to your mind when I say life?
Enjoyment
Okay. Career.
and that
Yeah, please continue.
fulfilling.
Yeah, you were talking about, okay, you were talking
Career
something
should be,
about enjoyment.
yeah, about enjoyment. So when I say enjoyment, it means that you are enjoying every phase of your life and every I would say every season of your life, because life is not always the really romantic season. Sometimes you have a summer, sometimes you have a winter, and sometimes you have a rainy season, and one must learn to enjoy them all.
Okay, that's very interesting. And then uh, security
First priority.
makes sense. Any your favorite book?
My favorite book, Alchemist, one of the most profound yet simple language, and I love the way he has written the story.
Okay, my inspiration, your inspiration.
Inspiration, I would say my professor in my engineering, his name is Mr. Narendra Pathak. It's because of him that that first spark of interest that was lit up in me about cybersecurity.
That's interesting, and I'm sure people or probably you later can just tag him while we having this conversation, that
Yeah.
so that professor get to know that the contribution that he has made to the field of security. I have thanks for sharing that rapid fire round. Though we are running out of time, but I still have one question coming from Simple. So Simple Setia is asking any new emerging threats that you like to share. Though we talked about few threats in the beginning, but anything additional that you want to talk about?
Anything additional that I want to talk about? I would say there is a lot of ransomware threats that are happening right now, where ransomware threats actually they target an organization. They will encrypt all the files, and unless you pay them money, they will not release those files. And that's one like number one threat for all the organizations right now, and one must be protected against this.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. And I see the commendation coming from people again. Simple Setia is saying, "Thanks, Aniket, for that insightful session." And I think that's a thanks to you for sharing this insight with us. And I think I missed to talk about one more thing that we got to know that how many of you have played Contra, like from the audience. Probably you can later you can type. So Aniket talked about that he still loved to play Contra, and my question was that is it still working? And he said yes. So tell me as a last comment more about that Contra thing.
Yeah, definitely. So Contra is that blast from the past, that time capsule for me, where I still have got that entire gaming console with the cassette and the controller. And in fact, my daughter is getting pro at Contra as well. So definitely, we love that time, and it's a really refreshing change from the other games that we play.
Wow, I think that's part of the when you talk about life, life is enjoyment, and you should enjoy
Yeah.
every aspect of life. Thanks, Aniket. Thanks for taking our time to be on the VectoScalar Tech Talk show. And thanks, audience, for you to join the show every time that we are having. That keep connecting, keep watching our show with another insightful guest in the next episode. Thanks, Aniket.
Thank you so much, Vikas, for inviting me here. It was a real pleasure interacting with you, and I'm really grateful to everyone in the audience for such interesting questions and curious questions that we got today. Thanks a lot, and thanks a lot. Yeah,
Thanks a lot. And audience, if you and you must start following Aniket for all the security tips. And if you really like to follow him on over the LinkedIn, so I'm just scrolling the message over the bottom today. So you can go to linkedin.com/in/Aniket Amdekar and you can follow him for more insightful discussion. Thanks again. Thanks. Bye bye. Keep enjoying. Have a nice day ahead.